Action and wave.
This is based on a book by Sarah Fordham. It was brought to my attention, funnily enough, by my wife. And she said, this is a really interesting story. And that was 20 years ago. So in the 20 years, we've been trying to get it written where you have the balance of what actually happened with the personal side of the story, which is constantly offset against the evolution of the business. And so it was an interesting thing of a family history, a grand family history, almost Italian royalty in the fashion industry, and which led to destruction of the family.
Essentially, we have Patrizia Gucci marry into the Gucci family. She marries Maurizio Gucci. She's, from a lower class family, a family that's successful in their own right in the trucking business. And she kind of gets a taste of wealth and power and what it's like to live this very five-star fancy life. And when she then has a separation with her husband and is kind of cast off from that life, she takes matters into her own hands.
Essentially, there was all these sort of famous dynasties in Italy, and Gucci was one of them. And what we watch is an outsider, Patrizia Reggiani, come into the family and grab a hold of Maurizio. They have a sexual love. They have a wild, youthful love. And what I think most people might perceive about the film before they see it is that she was a gold digger. But when they got married, his family had turned their back on him. So she didn't marry for money, she married for love.
The film, it's about the story of a company and the love story behind it. It's very tragic. The film is about obsession, about passion, family, about betrayal, and many other juicy things that I'm sure the audience would enjoy.
Jeremy Irons plays Rodolfo, and I play Aldo Gucci, and we're brothers, and we own Gucci.
The Guccis like to think that they're aristocracy. They aren't, but they like to think they are. Patrizia certainly is not. She's a real go-getter, a fantastic woman, but a snob like Rodolfo, who I played, he wanted far better, he imagined, for his son. Little did he know that she would do such great things for the company.
This is a story that chronicles everything that happened from the time that they met to the time that he died, and what took place business-wise within the family, how she got involved, how things became complicated, how he changed, how he morphed, and how her heart was broken. And I think the story shows a woman pushed over the edge, a woman that is adhering to a classist society in a way where she's trying desperately to transgress her class, but she's never as shiny as the Guccis. She's always an outsider. She never really fully makes it. And because they are all obsessed with something that's inherently evil, which is money and privilege and power, while they're all fighting over Gucci, they don't recognize the real disaster, which is that she's falling apart.
Sometimes a singer can also be a natural actor, because that's what they do on stage when they're singing. They're so inside their own words as she writes them. So she's writing her own play, which she then sings. So in a funny kind of way, it's not a stone's throw, less than a stone's throw away from if you're getting a script, can you just act and not sing? And so that became very apparent that she was very superlatively prepared for every line, more than normal in the whole story.
Lady Gaga is an extraordinary artist. She, including acting in it, she's fantastic. I think part of her secret, of her special talent, because she is special in everything she does, and that's what makes her a true artist, goes beyond just being a singer or just being an actor. The way she goes in and gives it all, every take. She was able to disappear and just become Patrizia.
She wanted so much to be taken seriously by Maurizio's father, by Maurizio's uncle, and even to have some kind of power over his cousin. She was smart, and she's felt that she knew what to do in order to inspire the company to be greater. But it was really an illusion because they were all just using her to get to Maurizio.
Adam Driver is a rare breed. He's one of the best in the business right now, and they come and go and they evolve. And settle down or evolve and keep getting better. And Adam has evolved for a while now, and it just keeps getting better.
I don't understand how he does these different roles he does. He embodies a role in such a way, and he brings a dimension to the film that in some ways lifts it and grounds it at the same time. You know where you are when you're with Maurizio.
Jared Leto, I just loved what he did with the character, and there was a real sense of spontaneity in his performance, even though he took the character and the writing quite literally.
We went through a great process of finding the right prosthetic person for Jared, and a lot of exploration as to what worked and what didn't, almost to the last minute. And Jared was extraordinarily hands-on and making sure it looked authentic, looked real. I mean, with Ridley's tutelage, Ridley, helped form it and shape it with Jared, and wanted to make sure that when he was in the rugby scene, he was in some of these physical altercations, when he was under big bright lights, that none of that stuff could read false or read fake. And so Jared spent hours and hours, weeks with a great prosthetic artist who we work with to make sure that that look was perfected and didn't just look like a joke. It looked really like Paolo Gucci.
That's the hardest makeup to do, to put it on from here to here. You're doing that and you're going to get creases. It's the hardest single thing to do. We found a genius in Scandinavia who we were able to have this done every morning.
Because Jared wanted to come to set, fair up, all ready, with costume on and, ready to go. He just wanted us to see him as a Paolo, which, I think is pretty incredible. So, of course, his time was spread with, prosthetic, hair, and costume was all together. So, it was quite long, but it was all together.
We're in Italy. He was a strange-looking person. And I thought, okay. And I looked around just to know that he belonged there, because he came out of nowhere. He said, Bubba. And then somebody knew that I was a little perplexed with what to do. They said, it's Jared. You have no idea. It was not anything I had ever seen before. He was a total different person. I've never seen that. I mean, that's one thing people put makeup on. It's one thing. He is the person they made him up to be. And I just bowed to him. And I said, when I see genius, I have to just bow. You've made my day. I want to go do this film now. I want to work.
Frederick Aspiris did my wigs and hair. Sarah Tano did my makeup. It was like a science lab. And what was most important was that it never got in the way of the story. I never wanted anyone to see her on camera and just be staring at her clothes, staring at her hair, staring at her makeup, and I have to hand it to them. I think that everybody did a really elegant job. My favorite outfit that I wore was when I wore a teal blue plunging neckline dress that I wore while pregnant, dancing with Aldo at Studio 54. I also really loved this pink jacket that I wore with lace on it.
When you're gonna do a movie about Gucci, the first thing that comes to your mind is beautiful costumes. And that is the case with Patrizia. However, in the case of Pina, the challenge was, how do you find the ugliest, most tasteless outfits that would make me look the worst? It was kind of frustrating, but fun and funny at the same time. Pina doesn't have the taste. And so it's ironic that I get to do this movie about Gucci and I get to look horrific.
It's almost unfathomable to me to think of a filmmaker who can make Alien, Blade Runner, Thelma and Louise, Gladiator, The Martian, Gucci. To see that kind of trajectory for a filmmaker, there's not another filmmaker like it. It is extraordinary to me to think of a filmmaker who can jump in and out of genres so effortlessly and have success in each and every one of them. I don't think there's another filmmaker like it in history.
It blows my mind how entertaining he made this film. It blows my mind what a blockbuster it will be in people's hearts. And it was designed to be that way. And that I believe is part of his magic and his love.
I think the way the story happened and the way Ridley Scott projected it, it's also gonna make the audience maybe wonder. And I think that it's not gonna be one of those films where the audience walk out of it and everybody thinks the same thing. There's a lot of gray areas that he manages brilliantly.